All right, let's begin. And I would ask that unless you have a question, please keep your mic muted. And I will share a file here shortly. Okay, let's share a file. My desktop. All right, and I'm hoping we can all see what I have my file that we were working with on Tuesday. All right, and let's go back to where we were. Oops, boy, covered quite a bit, didn't we? All right, here we go. We just finished with the using the inverse of the PE ratio for an estimate of the cost of equity. In other words, the PE ratio is price to earnings, and inverting that earnings to price would be one way of estimating the cost of equity capital. All right, and so I put together a little example trying to point out what would be required such that that would be a reasonable estimate. Right? And so I have a no growth company, earns 10% on $100, and it pays out 100%. So it will pay out the $10 every year from now till infinity. So $10 divided by 10%, yes, it's worth $100. Okay. All right, so now we're going to pull out next year's $10 payment. So instead of paying it out, we're going to reinvest it. So from the shareholder's perspective, these are the cash flows to the shareholder. The shareholder no longer receives the cash flow in year one. So that's been reduced to zero because that $10 that was earmarked as a dividend is now being reinvested. Right? But the following year, here's the $10 that was originally scheduled to be paid out, plus whatever we earn, the company earns on that $10 investment from year one. So let's put a couple of numbers into this. And that would be, what if this $10 that we reinvested in year one earns 5%? Then your cash flows, of course, are zero for year one, which we know because it's no longer going to there still is a $10 earnings, it's just not going to the shareholders. So $10 plus the $10 invested in year one, which earns 5% in perpetuity. So our cash flows will be 1050, 1050, 1050 out to infinity. That's our assumption anyway. All right, so let's calculate the price. How much will this subsequent investment do for the value of the company? Well, we're going to say that the horizon value, so we start constant growth in year one. I'm sorry, constant growth begins in year two, forgive me. Begins in year two, so therefore you have to set your horizon value in year one. So P1 is equal to D2 divided by R minus G, which equals 10.5, or it's $10.50, divided by $10 minus zero, it's no growth, or we'd get $105. All right, so what are the total cash flows to the shareholders in year one? It would be zero from the dividend, plus the horizon value of 105 for a total of 105. We discount that back one period at the cost of equity capital of 10%, and we get 95.45. All right, so I think you might look at your document, there's a small error here. I think I put 9.545. I corrected mine, but this should be 95.45. So the PE ratio of the company, price to earnings, and again, even though there's nothing paid in year one, the earnings for year one are still $10, aren't they? So 95.45 divided by 10, the PE ratio is 9.545. All right, so if we invert that to get the earnings to price ratio, we get $10 over 95.45, or we get 10.48%, which is greater than the company's cost of capital of 10%. So lesson one, I guess, and we'll summarize this again later, but if the ROE of the new investment is less than the cost of capital, the EP ratio overstates the true cost of equity capital. And then let's take the other extreme, and that would be, what if it earns over the ROE? So we're going to take 20%. To try to make this a little more obvious. So no cash flow to the shareholders in year one, but that $10 has been reinvested, and it now earns $20 or 20% for the life of the company. So the cash flow to the investor becomes 12, 12, 12, 12 instead of 10, 10, 10, 10. And if we value the company, we set our horizon value one as $12 divided by 10% or 120. And we discount that horizon value back 1 year as we did previously. And we get a value of 109.09. So now what happens? So the earnings to price ratio, we'll go directly rather than going through the PE ratio. The earnings to price ratio becomes 9.17%. So what do we learn here? If the ROE of the new investment is greater than the cost of capital, the EP ratio understates the true cost of capital. Okay, and then here's the last possibility, and that would be, what if the ROE equals the cost of capital? And following the same procedure, we earn $1 on the year one investment of $10, and so our cash flows become $11, $11, $11 to infinity, and horizon value one becomes $110, and the price becomes $100. EPS 1 over P0 is 10%. So a quick summary: if the ROE on the new investment equals the cost of capital, then EP correctly estimates the cost of capital. If the ROE on the new investment is less than the cost of capital, the EP ratio overestimates the true cost of capital. If the ROE on the new investment is greater than the cost of capital, this is what you hope for, the EP ratio underestimates the true cost of capital. Right? I believe it's Finance 339, which is a portfolio type course where you basically take the 10 sectors of the S&P 500 and you break the class up into those 10 sectors. So I believe it's 2 students per sector as the junior analyst, and then 2 students per sector as the senior analyst. Right? So you'll see firsthand that calculating calculating is one thing, estimating the cost of equity is a difficult process. And many times you'll take several models. You might use the CAPM. You might use the what we're doing in this class. You might take the bond yield plus a historical difference between bond yields and equity yields. Well, anyway, it's a process. And under what situation would I be comfortable using the EP ratio? What sector would you want to be in? Well, I see only one sector where it fits reasonably well, and that would be in the public utilities. So if you're in a regulated industry, basically if you want to change the rates you charge for electricity or gas or water, you go before the Public Service Commission of the city or the whatever the district is, and you put up an argument saying that I need so much more to meet my costs, and they might grant you the rate increase or they might not. But anyway, your ROE is regulated. Okay. So in this case, the earnings are regulated. The EP ratio might indeed be a reasonable estimate of the cost of equity. But I would say don't completely devoid yourself of this particular method. What I would say is that I would use it as maybe a first check. So in other words, if I'm getting 20% cost of equity from my other models, and the EP ratio says it should be 10, I might think about my 20, and vice versa. If I'm getting 8% or 6%, and my EP model says 15, well, I want to think about it. Why are they so far apart? So it's kind of a first pass, you know, a check of reasonableness, and that's pretty much what the EP ratio will provide for you. All right. All right. Now, one of those models you can use, of course, is estimating the cost of equity capital from the constant dividend growth model. So this is a estimate based on expectations, not so much based on you know, the betas and the market risk premium and all this. This is based on the constant dividend growth rate model. So this is our model. And if we solve this for R, we get this nice little model which says D1 over P0 plus G. So it's the sum of the dividend yield plus the growth. Now, if you might remember anything about bonds, you did exactly the same thing. You had a current yield plus a growth. Well, in this particular model, the current yield is a result of the dividend payment. So we go directly to the source, and we call it a dividend yield instead of a current yield, but it is a current yield. So I will pay P0 at the beginning of the period to receive D1 in a cash flow. So that's a current yield, isn't it? But we call it the dividend yield. Okay, so I'll take the dividend yield plus the growth. Okay, and I have a little example here. Dividend yield is 5%. The ROE is 25%. We're going to use a plowback of 30%. And EPS, our projected earnings for the year, will be $2. Okay, what is the company's stock price? Okay, and why don't we let's copy this table and drop it into an Excel file. So let's play with it live rather than just look at the written stuff I have here. Whoops, I need another sheet. Okay. So I'm going to drop this table into Excel, and I'll blow it up so you can see it. Like, you know what? We don't need this to be this large. There we go. All right. So this is what we know about the company. All right. And before we can find, actually that's not true. Well, let's say that if we're trying to follow the basic dividend growth model, before we can find the price, we need to find R. Okay, and we said that R has two components. That it's equal to D1 over P0 plus G. Okay, fill in the blanks. Do we know what D1 over P0 is? Well, that's the dividend yield. That's 5%, isn't it? So let's go through our two components. First one would be D1 over P0. Okay, this is 5%. And let's label that one given. It was. And then we need G. All right, how would we find G? Okay, I gave you an equation. It says it's G is equal to B times ROE. What again was B? What's this B? That's the plowback ratio. And do we have that anywhere here? Yes, we do, right here. So B is 30%. ROE is 25%. So we have a very straightforward calculation here to find G. So 25% times 30%. We'll see that 7.5%. So we'll just make a note of this. There we go. All right, and if I add these together, I better give it a decimal. Now, I guess you might make a habit of giving decimals again give decimals two places. I'm sorry, percentages. Give them two decimals, all right? Because I think you can see that, 11.49% well, let's say anything from 11.51 up to 12.49 will be shown as 12%, won't it? So if you give it two decimals, you'll be fine. All right, now that I have the R, I have a G, I can use the constant dividend growth model. So we'll do P0 and 1 divided by the quantity R minus G. All right. I'm now in isolation, and I'm at least a couple steps from death, but nonetheless, I'm going to cut out my mic every time I have to cough, if that's all right. So you're going to see, you'll lose me for a pause. It's not because my brain is gone, and it might be anyway, but it's because I'm coughing. Okay. Okay, so let's calculate this. Equals. All right, and let's make sure we have all of our components here. Okay, let's add something here. Let's add D1. Okay, what's our expected dividend here? Well, we expect to earn $2, and we're retaining 30% of that. Oops, what am I doing, Algebra? No, it's Excel. So 1 minus the 30%. Okay, so we are going to pay out $1.40. All right, so now do we have everything we need? Yes, we do. Yes. All right, so equals $1.40 divided by R minus G. Oh, it's right above, I guess. R minus G. Excuse me. And so the model estimates a price of $28. And so we know this is Anyway, there you go. All right. We're going to do several things with this. And some of them I hope you find interesting, but a company is made up of two components, right? We said this P0 actually has two components. So let me copy this down and expand it a bit. And we have in our lecture notes, we have another equation. We said this is also equal to EPS1 divided by R plus the present value of the growth opportunities. Okay. So we are going to work with this equation and a table to try to find this PVGO. Now you can see this will not be a difficult calculation. We know this P0 to be 28. We know EPS1 is $2. And we know R is 12.5%. So it wouldn't be difficult to do, but we're going to try to show the process how this works. All right, so if we go back to the Word document for just a moment. Okay, so we just did this. We found out that it's 12.5. Now, let me go back here a minute. Let me finish something here. I had a couple of students back when we had real classes that we were face-to-face, and they sat right in the first row, and it's almost as though they competed with each other so you could find the answer first. And anytime I asked a question, this would be a question I'd ask of the class, what's the price? And I would have them work it. I didn't use this Word document. When I walk into my classes, I bring along basically just my good looks. I don't have any notes. I don't bring a book. And I would start working these things on Excel just like I'm doing now. So you're getting that part of it. But I don't have the lecture notes. You can't look ahead and see what the answer is. But so I simply would ask the class, what's the price? I'm hoping they would, based on the previous class period, could do some of this themselves. Well, these two young women right away, first thing they said is the price is $28. I said, well, very good. You must have figured out what we did. And I said, how'd you do it? Let's try to use this as a learning moment for the rest of the class. Well, what did they do? They said the dividend yield. Dividend yield is equal to D1 divided by P0. And they said that's equal to 5%. That's given. All right. So what did they do? They said that the dividend yield is equal to $2 times, okay, that's the earnings, times the payout ratio, which is 70%. I hope you see where I got that. That's 1 minus 30, right? The B. Right, and they said divided by P0. Oops. Okay, P0. So how difficult would this be to find P0? Well, basically, all you have to do is solve the same equation for P0, and we can do this. And we do 3 equals. You know what that means in Excel? It means you made the error 3 times, not once. Equals $1.40 divided by 5%, and that equals and the how do I do it? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I did not mute my mic. But anyway, they found the 28 like this. I was thinking they would do it this way. So that was a good moment. Got a question? I heard some noise there. Let me, okay, I hope this works. I'm going to check my chat, see what we're doing here.
You're not sharing the screen anymore.
Oh, I hit the wrong icon. Thank you so much. I meant to choke my mic and said I choked the screen. Very good. Okay, let me do it again. Come on, teams. All right. And this is a problem. This Teams has been very mean to me lately, and I don't know why. How do I get back to sharing the screen? Can I do it on this? Oh, no.
It should be top right up by the red leave button.
Yes, I know exactly where it is. I can't get to it because I can't move this. I have the Teams screen here, and I can't reposition it. I can't get to the top of it. So maybe, oops, maybe I can just, can I scroll up to the top? I can't do that. I can't get to the top of the team screen. You see, that's where all those are. So I've expanded it. Let's see if that works. Oh, no. No, I'm really, no. Oh, this is not funny. Yeah, I know where it is. I just can't get to it. I'll tell you what, I'm going to sign off for just a moment. I'll come right back. I'm just going to close this. I don't know any other way to do this. Okay, so let's. Sure you want to leave? Yes. All right, now I can once again share the screen. I don't know why that happens. It just does. I mean, I know how to share a screen. I just can't. I can't get to the. I can't. Well, I'll show you in a minute. Okay, I'm going to share the desktop. Okay, and let me just get this out of the way. You can see on my screen, I have this thing. You see, it's right here to share the screen. I can do that, except I couldn't get to this top row. It was just not accessible to me. So I don't know what happened. But anyway, I hope I can do it again. Get back to it if I have to. All right. So let's go back, and I'm sharing the screen, so this should work. All right. And so, yeah, so they use that shortcut on me, and so I thought it was a pretty good learning moment for the rest of the class, so I shared it. And another little question is, what's the book value per share? That's something, again, if we were face to face, I would just say, find the book value per share for me. Well, here's how you do it. Go back to what you know. You're earning 25% on some book equity, which results in earnings of $2. So basically, $2 is 25% of some number. So some number is earning me $2 at a rate, and the rate is 20. So anyway, basically divide $2 by 25 by 25%, and you would get that it's $8 per share. So that's right here. Okay, and we have two components for the company. We have its values and no growth and the present value of the growth opportunities. So we are going to expand upon this quite a bit. And so if I'd like you to, let's see, what do we need in this table here? So we have ROE, we have B, well, let's just start over. Let's copy this table. It won't hurt. So let's copy this table and drop it into Excel. And maybe down here somewhere. It doesn't matter where you put it. Okay, and then right close to that somewhere, why don't you add this table to it? In fact, you just need, well, you can do 4 years. That's fine. Let's drop this table in there too. Just below your given information. Okay, so I'm going to shrink a little bit so you can see all of what we have here. I hope that's large enough for you to see it. So ROE is 25%. Do I have everything? Yes, I did. Okay. ROE is 25%. Plowback. Just kind of remember these. It's 30%. EPS 1, we know what that is. Book value per share. And this is our R. This is our cost of equity. All right, and the growth rate is 7.5. All right, so let's fill out this table. Let's begin with the book value per share. We just did that. Our initial book value per share was equal to our EPS divided by the 25%. That's where we came up with our $8. Okay, our earnings per share, you can do it several ways, but the way I think that will save you in the long run is to actually calculate it. So it equals the book value per share times the ROE. And since ROE will be the same throughout the table, we will lock it. Okay, the dividend. They will be paying out 70% of earnings. And we know that because 30% is plowed back. Earnings have but 2 homes, so what isn't plowed back is paid out. So let's try it. Equals, so I'm going to take the earnings times, and I'll do 1 minus the plowback, and of course I will lock the plowback because it does not change for the remainder of the table. So that's $1.40. All right, and how much do we reinvest? There we go. We reinvest, you can do it any number of ways. Probably the easiest is to say, well, we earned 2 minus what we paid out. So we reinvested 60 cents. All right. And so what basically do we have at the end of year 1 for book value per share? Well, we're reinvesting 60 cents. So we had $8 here. We're starting in year 2, we're going to be up to $8.60, aren't we? Okay, so in other words, this equity here is no different than this equity. This is the equity that we will add to the year 1 equity. And it will also earn 25%. So this 60 cents will also earn the ROE. It's no different than this $8. So it's times the ROE. Now you want to lock that, of course. Uh-oh, what did I do? There we go. And it earns 15 cents. All right, so what did you just do as a shareholder? Well, not by necessarily your choice, but your board of directors declared a $1.40 dividend. So you really had $2. This is yours. You're a shareholder. Your share had a cash flow of $2. But the board of directors paid you 140 of that, reinvested 60. So you basically invested in the company. So you had a cash flow zero of this investment of minus 60. And then every year thereafter, you're going to earn 15 cents in perpetuity. Okay, until you pull out that 60 cents. Now you're saying, well, this is really trivial, 60 cents. You could be off that much in your cap. Well, yeah, you could. But what if you had 2 million shares? You see, this is not trivial, but we can analyze this on a per share basis. So we can make this look fancy and do this for 2 million shares. Well, sure, that'd be big numbers, lots of zeros. But why? Why complicate it? Okay, this is what you have. Okay, so NPV. What's the NPV for your investment? Let's just go back to basics. V equals minus cash flow zero, plus present value cash flows 1, in this case, well, 1 for any of them, to n. Okay, so this is cash flow 0. These are cash flows 1 through n, which is 1 through infinity. Right? And so if we use our basic model, value equals D1 divided by R minus G. Well, this is a cash flow, right? So cash flow divided by R minus G. So the NPV is minus 60 plus 0.15, 15 cents, divided by R minus G. So our R for equity capital in here is 12.5%. Oops, sorry. Minus the growth, and there is no growth. This 15 cents, as you can see, does not grow, correct? Minus 0. So we basically can just say, well, we can do it, and you'll get 60 cents as the NPV. All right, let me expand on this just a little bit. Okay, now this also equals minus 0.60. Okay, that's your initial investment plus 0.60. Okay, what does it earn? It earns times ROE. We put the number. Well, let's put ROE. And then we just did what? Divided by R minus G, which is just the same as dividing by R. So what I'm going to do is bracket here and divide this by R. Okay. So what we basically had up here, we had equals minus 60 0.60, my fault, plus 0.60 times 25% divided by 12.5%. That's what we did. And what did that do for us? It created 60 cents of additional value. All right, 1 year from now, mind you. So up here, we can, let's do that up here. Equals the 15 cents. Well, let's do everything. Okay, minus the investment plus the investment times the ROE, and we'll lock that, divided by R, and we will lock that. Okay, that's the same 60 cents. Okay, so, but what would it take for this NPV to be positive? Okay, just in general, what do you see happening here? Let's take the very easy case. What if ROE and R are the same? So what we'd get here would be minus 60 plus 60.60 times, these are equal, so this would be 1, wouldn't it? So that would be 0. All right. Now what happens in our case? ROE exceeded R. If ROE exceeds R, then this quotient is greater than 1. Therefore, the NPV is positive. What happens if ROE is less than R? Well, unfortunately, what you start doing is this becomes negative, and you're actually destroying value, aren't you? Okay. All right, so if you have this up, why don't you fill out this table for the next 4 years? I'll give you the part that should be the only part of this that should be complicated. Okay, you got to remember that this $8 will grow by how much? How much did we reinvest? It'll grow by the 60 cents, won't it? All right, so why don't you take a couple minutes and fill out the rest of that table. It shouldn't be that difficult, I hope, but we'll find out.
I got a question.
Please.
How do you quickly lock the cells, or do you just type the $sign every time?
Oh, never. What kind of platform are you working with?
Excel.
I get that. That's the software.
Oh.
Are you on a Mac? Are you on a PC?
Yeah, I'm on a PC.
Oh. Piece of cake. That's just the F4 function.
All right,
okay?
Thank you.
Well, here, hang on a minute. We're not quite done with that.
Okay.
There will come times when you just want to lock the row, and there'll become times when you just want to lock the column, not the cell. All right? So if you tap F4 once, you'll get the double $signs. If you tap F4 twice, it'll leave the $sign only in front of the row. If you tap F4 3 times, it'll leave the $sign only in front of the column. So you see, you can actually lock the row, the column, or the cell. Now, if you're working in the Mac platform, you would use Command T. And if you have a reasonably new version of Excel for Mac, it works pretty much like an F4 function on a PC. You just hit Command T once to lock the cell, Command T twice to lock the row, Command T 3 times in order to lock the column. Is everybody okay with that?
If I'm hitting F4 and it's not doing anything, is there another button that I have to hit
Well,
with it?
okay. On some PCs, you have a function key. So you want the F4 function. So do you have somewhere, maybe in your lower left-hand corner of the keyboard, there's an subscript N key?
Yep, I got one of those.
Okay, so why don't you hit that and then hit F4 and see if you have any better luck.
Worked like a charm.
Oh, I like to hear that. All right. Now keep in mind, 30 to 40 people will hear any question you ask. So what? Ask the question. I'm perfectly happy to answer it. The only fear I have right now is getting into the chat because you saw what happened. I can't access my control row after I open it up. After we ask enough questions, the window gets so large that, and I can't find a way to move the thing. Okay, so please ask these questions. These are great questions. I know sometimes you haven't opened Excel since you took IS 240. I know that. And by the way, those who are taking Finance 326, you know very well you're in deep water unless you get a pretty good handle on Excel reasonably quickly. Here, we're just kind of using it as a tool. We'll use it for some very strong analysis in 326. But yeah, I know it's just it's a sad story that if one of the goals of the college is to have students who know Excel, and yet you can go this long without ever touching it. And I know the experiences are different. I get people in the class that did a internship in the summer or something like that, or in the fall, and use Excel every day. And you know they're keeping up like nothing. And I have other people haven't touched it since IS 240 and everything in between. So I know so please ask. It doesn't hold the class up that much. But basically, all you have to do, if you get this one, notice this. I come over here, and if I've locked everything correctly, I copy this down one. Okay. Now we have the 860 set up such that we can copy this one also. So now I can just highlight the whole row and copy it down two more. So do we have these results? All right, let's move on just a little bit. How fast is this NPV growing? If you had to make a somewhat educated guess, what would you guess? Okay, what's our dividend growth rate? Well, what did we use when we valued this company? We said the dividends would grow at 7.5%. Everything in this table is growing at 7.5%. Okay, and let's just prove it. So we're going to say equals 0.645 divided by 0.6. Oh, my bad. You always have to subtract one. And let's make sure that's a percent looking thing. All right. So I'll slow down so you can catch up. But the point being is that this last column, this NPV, is growing at 7.5%. Okay, if I copy this down for the next few years, it continues to grow at 7.5%. How did we value the company? We started out with a $1.40 dividend, which is just a cash flow. And we divided it by R minus G. So we divided it by, just repeating this a little bit. I'm lost. Oh, there we go. Okay, and we know it's 20, we know that, it's $28. So let's just copy this. And I'll put a little space in there so it stays as a label. All right. So what's the basic structure of this equation? Cash flow divided by R minus G. Cash flow divided by R minus G. We will use this several more times in the class. This basic structure. We won't be using it with dividends anymore. But we'll be using it with other types of values. But this we can treat as the cash flow. Okay, this cash flow is growing at 7.5%. And what happens if we discount it at 12.5%? Okay, so let's do the present value of the NPVs. And just following the same basic structure will equal NPV1 divided by, and again, these are all equity values, right? So it's the cost of equity again, R minus G. And that equals NPV1 was 60 cents divided by 12.5% minus 7.5%. Okay, and if we did that, we will get $12. So let's label these again so we can play them a little bit. So what was the $28 again? That's the price at year 0, correct? Okay. And let's continue here. What's the value as a no growth? Okay, that would be EPS1 divided by R. Okay, and for us, that would equal EPS1. Just look right up here. That's the $2, right? Year 1 EPS. Divided by 12.5%. And those of you remember your fractions, 12.5% is the same as an eighth, isn't it? So if you divide 2 by an eighth, you must get $16. Right, and I'm going to move this over so these align nicely. And so if I add these together, what do I get? There's my price. So the price has 2 components. And what is this $12? This is what we have called the PVGO. So that's the present value of the growth opportunities. 16 is what the company would be worth if it earned $2 and paid 100% of it out every year. So it earns $2 every year and pays it all out. It would be worth $16. And those add to our price according to the model, the constant dividend growth model of $28 per share. Do we have any questions so far? All right. This is dangerous, but I'll try it. Oh, there we go. I can't Okay, I can't make a mistake the rest of the way. Oh my gosh, sorry about that. So yeah, what's F24? Let's look at that. If you're in the same cell, I mean. F24, yes, very good. It's just the reinvested amount times the ROE, and that would be times 25%. Okay, and can I do this or can't I? Oh my gosh. Okay, that was correct. And then F24 we got. G24. Okay, let's look at G24, make sure we all get that. Yeah, this is the NPV equation. And that's basically this right here. So it's minus the reinvested amount plus the reinvested amount times ROE divided by R. So that's actually, that is exactly this. Okay, and how else are we doing? Okay, so I think we're okay. How did you get 7.5%? Okay, we'll do that again. 7.5% is it's the ending value divided by the beginning value minus 1. So it's just a simple growth rate. You could also see what I started out at 60 cents. I've gained 45. I could also say plus 0.45 divided by 60 cents. Right? I'll get the same thing. So it's just the percentage change. So it's ending value divided by beginning minus 1. Are we good on that one? Okay. This is going to creep up on me and I'm not going to be able to do it again. All right. Oops, sorry about that. Anything else I should explain here? Because these are questions you need to ask if you don't get it, because I won't be there to help you when you take your exam. I'll tell you something else. I didn't mention this in the other section, but I tend to tell people that they say, how should I study? What do I need to be ready for your exam? And my answer is, well, we have a group of students that sometimes participate in junior achievement. So they'll go over to a high school and they'll do a business simulation with either high school or even 8th graders. I think it's where they usually do it. And my belief is that if you can explain this to a high schooler or an 8th grader, you're ready for my test. So just like someone says, how did you get to F24? Okay, well, can you show somebody that equation? Okay, be able to explain this to an 8th grader, then you're ready for my test. You'll do very well. You'll be in some very high numbers. So, all right, let's get back to this. Right now, what if you have a question like this? You know, it's kind of dumb to say what if. Obviously, you will have a question like this on the test. I don't cover something unless it's on the test, and vice versa. I don't put something in like it was on page 92 of your book, and I didn't even ask you to read page 92. No, it's not there. It's been on this screen, and it'll be on the test. The only thing is it'll have different numbers. So if you understand what's on the screen, you're pretty well off. Okay, so if I had to do this on an exam, what would I do? Okay, what I would do would be this. I know that the price, and that's not hard to find, right? D1 over R minus G. So I have the price. I know that to be $28. That was not hard to do. In fact, we can even do it. Equals 1.4 divided by 0.125 minus 0.05. So I'm taking a test now. I just did price. Oh, that's good. What did I do wrong? Oh, the dividend. Sorry. 7 60 cents. Oh, no, $1.40. What did I put down? Oh, 0.05, 7.5. Oh my gosh, I'm failing the test, my own test. That's pretty good. Okay, here we go. Anyway, I get that. Then the next thing I would do would say a no growth value. Obviously, you can do this with pencil and paper 15 times faster. I can type all this. Well, that's equal to EPS 1, $2 divided by R. So it's worth 16 as a no growth. It's worth 28. The PVGO then is the difference, isn't it? All right, that's the easiest way to answer it. Okay, then one more little thing I have in the notes, and I'll go back to that since I have it in the notes. We did all this. Okay, and this is what I just did. So PVGO is basically the difference between the price as a growing company minus the price as a no-growth company. All right, and so we just did that. And then, again, to emphasize, this was not a difficult equation, so I used 4 cells to come up with it. Why? Well, because this is the important part. Here's your takeaway right here. And again, that is, for a company to create growth, ROE must exceed R. And that's what I've tried to demonstrate here. And here it is. I got it in bright yellow. ROE must exceed R to create growth. So to create growth, ROE must exceed R. All right. And then we have this equation. P0 is the value of no growth, EPS 1 over R, plus PVGO. All right. What part of this value comes from the growth opportunities? Okay, so what I did is I divided both sides of this equation. So that would be from here to here. I divided both these terms by P0, and I divided P0 by P0, and that gave me this. And then I solved this for the ratio of PVGO over P0. So what part of P0 comes from the growth opportunities? And then you can see right here, if you algebraically solve this, you get 1 minus EPS 1 over P0, and that quotient divided by R. And so if I fill this in, we know EPS 1 is $2. We know P0 is 28. We know R is 12.5%. You get 42.86%. So that's what part of my price comes from PVGO. So you can see then if the PVGO goes to 0, that is, if the company cannot grow, you would very much expect a share price reduction of 42.86%. And if we can follow up on that, so if I take $28, my share price, and multiply it by this 42.86%, that comes out, if you don't suppress the decimal places here, comes out $12, which is exactly the PVGO. Okay, so your assignment for next Tuesday, and that will be due at the beginning of the period on Tuesday. It wouldn't do me much good to make it due later than that, because I'm going to go through it. I don't want you just to copy it down, what I do in class, and hand it in. So these are due at the beginning of class on Tuesday. Now, chapter 4, questions 18, 20, 23, 24, 29. Right now, how do most of your textbooks work? How does question 1 compare to question 5, for example? It's usually substantially easier, isn't it? So how do you think question 18 compares to question 1? Okay, what I'm trying to say is these are not easy questions. Have we covered everything that's necessary for you to be able to work these? Yes, we have. Okay, but I'm saying don't start these at midnight on Monday night. That will leave you not a happy person. Okay. And by the way, I've already fielded numerous questions on this assignment. So people have emailed me their questions. I had couple people meet me at Teams and during my office hours, which I will have from 3 to 5 on Monday. But get a start on this. Okay, so question 18. You have 3 stocks to value. Stock 1, I believe, pays a dividend of, I think it's $10. And it, in fact, I have it right here. It pays a dividend of $10. And it says it, I'll read it to you. The stock is expected to provide a dividend of $10 a share forever. So that's a perpetuity. You divide it by R, you have the price. You've invested all of 15 seconds already. Stock B, expected to pay a dividend of $5 next year. What's that mean? That's D1. Thereafter, dividend growth is expected to be 4%. Okay, and we're starting all these with a capitalization rate of 10%. And then you'll repeat all these calculations using a capitalization rate or cost of capital of 7%. Well, now, stock C is not anywhere near this easy. It pays a $5 dividend next year, and that dividend grows for 5 years at 20%. Thereafter, it stops growing. Okay, so dividend year 1 is $5. Dividend year 2 is $5 times 1.2, $6, and so on until you get to year 6. Okay, by year 6, it'll be $12.44. Okay, but it doesn't grow after that. So you got year 7, year 8, year 9, and so on. These are all $12.44. So starting in year 6, you have a constant no growth dividend of 12.44. All right, now the constant growth model works under 3 scenarios. One would be constant positive growth. The other is constant no growth. The other is constant, yes, negative growth. Works under all of the above. Okay, so this is a constant no growth. So what you do is you place your horizon value in year 5, just like it says here. And then you would add your horizon value in year 5, so that would be 12.44 divided by the R you're using. One case it's 10%, the next time it'll be 7%. Add that to your dividend 5, and that's your cash flow for year 5. The cash flows for years 1 through 4 are just the dividends. Discount all those back. You'll see when you get there, and you have the price. Okay, now question 20. Okay, in order to work this, you have to create a table similar to what we did in class, similar to table 4.4. That's what we did in class. Okay, except you might recall that in our table, in year 3, we changed the payout ratio and changed the ROE. Okay, this one, the change in the ROE doesn't occur till year 5. So you work everything we did similar to table 4.4, but your horizon value is in year 4. All right, let's see if you can do that. Question 23. All right, now when I worked my example of growth tech for you, we used 10% cost of capital. And question 23 asked you to repeat everything that I did, except use 12% as your cost of capital. All right, now you might recall on my spreadsheet, I took a separate cell and entered the growth rate. And never again did I type it. I'm sorry, forgive me. The cost of capital, I put that in a separate cell, and then I referenced that cell every time I had a cost of capital. So if this were me and I had to work this assignment, all I have to do is go back to that cell and change this 10% to 12%, and I can answer all the questions. All right, but if you don't, I hope you can at least follow what we did, because you have to repeat every one of those steps, only using 12% instead of 10. Okay, question 24 is a bugger. What happens is you got a company that's expecting to pay a dividend based on a 60% payout rate, but all of a sudden they're asked to expand the facilities, and they're going to change that, and they're going to start paying out only 20%. They're going to retain 80%. That's what I have right here. Okay, so first part you can do just as we did in class, just different numbers. But from that point on, the next part, okay, you have to find the EPS first. And the EPS would be the dividend was expected to be $4. Okay, so make a highlight of that. That's your dividend, $4. Okay, and they were paying out how much? Initially, they're paying out 60%. So if I took the $4 and so $4 is 60% of some number, right? It's a 60% payout. So if I divide that by 0.6, then you will see that their earnings per share was actually 6.6667 and so on. That's what I have right here. Okay, but now on part B, you have to work under the assumption that they pay out only 20%. Okay, and away you go. Fill out this table. Keep in mind that they're going to expand the plant for 5 years, years 1 through 6. At the end of year 6, they're going to go back to paying out 40%. Okay, so you're going to have your horizon value will be in year 5, and that would be D6 divided by R minus G. All right, I have all that written out down here. You can read it. All right, and we have basically done what you need to do in 29. Just it's a little bit different. I wrote out everything here. You should be able to follow this. I hope you can, and see what happens. All right, so unless you have further questions, that's all that I have for today. Okay, well, thank you, and thank you for your patience. And I'm going to head out. See, I can't.